Hi, everyone. I'm Bandish, founder of The Curious Mindset, a private community for technology leadership teams powered by 64 Tech, an IT solution provider of hardware, cloud, and IT services. Although we're powered by 64 Tech, our core principle is simple: to always give more than we take. There are no membership fees, no pressure, and no sales pitches. Please do follow our LinkedIn page to stay updated on how 64 Tech can support you with any technology challenges, or feel free to contact me if you're looking to shake things up with your current IT suppliers. Now, while 64 Tech delivers technology solutions, we know that most challenging part of leading a technology department isn't the technology, it's the people. There's pressure to appear all-knowing, which makes it hard to admit what we don't know or ask questions that allow us all to be vulnerable. That's why the Curious Mindset exists. For new members joining us today, this is a space where we combine coaching, mentorship, and community to help technology leaders grow. We focus on three things. Firstly, individual impact, helping you grow personally and professionally, especially if you don't have traditional support. Team impact, strengthening your leadership to build high-performing teams. And finally, community. Leadership can be isolating, so we connect you with others walking the same path. This all started from my own experience and a desire to support others on the same journey. I know how tough leadership can be, so we built this community on three guiding principles: our North Star, no one leads alone; our mantra, together we grow; and our mission, to help technology leaders become the best versions of themselves. And the Curious Mindset is how we bring all of that to life. Before we dive in, a quick favor. This community grows through invitation and reputation. And one of our biggest challenges is that most technology leaders don't realize they need this until they experience it firsthand. If you believe in what we're building, here are three quick ways to help. Firstly, hit the bell on our TCM LinkedIn page and select all so you don't miss future posts. Secondly, leave us a Google review and a short LinkedIn recommendation if our team reach out. And thirdly, invite any tech leaders in your network by sharing our website. There's a short form to join, and Bryony will also send you an email that you can forward on. In return, my commitment to you is this: I'll do everything I can, together with the team, to keep making this better fortnight after fortnight. We'll continue to listen to your feedback and shape this around what matters the most to you. Thank you. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce today's speakers, our resident host, Andy McMenemy, our special guest, Maria Gutierrez, and for our Q&A, our technology leader co-host, Steve Maxwell.
Banish, thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying Barbados, and thank you for your continued support. It's only through the generosity of 64 Tech that the Curious Mindset can exist, not only as a platform, but also as a community. And this has been a tremendous first half of the year for us. And this is the very last session before we break for summer. So thank you for that continued support. And we hope you continue to support us long into the future. It's my great pleasure today to introduce someone that was introduced or was shared with us by Mari, one of our previous speakers. Maria Gutierrez, VP of Engineering at Personio, has held senior leadership roles at some of the world's most respected tech companies, including Twitter, Intercom, and Free Agent. She's scaled teams and she's led through hypergrowth and helped organizations to stay healthy whilst growing fast. It's my great pleasure to introduce Maria here on stage to the Curious Mindset. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you so much for having me, Andy. It's great to be here.
You're in a lovely place with a fantastic audience that are sitting on the edge of their seats, I know, waiting to hear what you're going to share with us today. Maria, what I'd like to ask you, first of all, with all of your experience, is in the engineering field, I guess, where you're prominent, but across the organizations that you've helped through hypergrowth, why is it important to have a crystal clear blueprint for the organization?
I think the thing that I've learned the hard way, as many, I'm sure, of the people in the audience, as you go from being an individual contributor to becoming a manager and growing as a leader, is you can't just let things to chance. It's very easy to get caught into what I call calendar-led management. It's like you just respond to whatever is in your calendar without having a lot of intention, and that can cause you a lot of problems. So for me, I've learned that you need to be very intentional on where you spend your time and how you decide to run your organizations and your teams if you want to deliver that great impact for the business and the organization, if you want to create a healthy and sustainable organization that can execute repeatedly successfully on whatever the goals of the business are at any given time. So whilst my background, as you say, Andy, is from engineering, the last 3 years, and probably even before that, I've tended very quickly as I took more larger responsibility for teams, and my experience has been a lot in very fast growing, kind of fast scaling businesses or a larger scale, that I needed to have a way to kind of formalize my thinking about what I needed to do and what I needed to pay attention to. And for me, it aligns in 3 areas. Is kind of, are you very clear about the goals that you have? Kind of what is the mission, the vision, the strategy, what you're trying to accomplish as a business? Can you actually execute well on those things? So how do you approach that execution within your organization? And then do you have actually the team that can execute on those things? And the way, so I see this a little bit as a triangle, it's all connected. And if one of those pieces is not in a good place, then the whole thing falls a little bit apart. And like, the way you connect goals to execution is like you're trying to get predictability of some of those outputs that ultimately are going to turn into impact, which is the important part, the outcomes of what you're trying to do. Then between execution and people, you need to make sure you have the right knowledge, skills, and the right capacity to be able to execute on those things. And then between goals and the people, it's like, do you have the right accountability? Do people know what they are meant to do? What are the expectations that you have on them and the role that they're playing? And actually, the other side, which is inclusion, is not just about what you expect. It's you as a business. Are you providing the right environment for people to thrive in that role and to be able to execute on those things? And I've found that when you have those things all coming together, then you can really kind of build high-performing teams underneath that know how the work that they do ties to the purpose and the impact that it's going to have in the business, or can they really focus on delivering the things in their roadmaps or whatever, like they're not firefighting all the time or all over the place because they you don't have a good execution machine. And do they have the right capacity, the right trust between them to collaborate and to be successful on delivering on those things? And having that in my mind and knowing in what area I need to pay attention, because you can't be on everything 100%. Sometimes you really need to spend your time on a strategy. Sometimes you really need to fix that execution. Sometimes you need to build a team, or you need to focus on the people and the culture and what is happening on the ground. Is really helped me to be more intentional with what I do.
And I imagine, that's quite complex across international businesses. A lot of our TCM members are responsible for running large areas, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and also reporting into America. Have you found any different levels of complexity that are more difficult to deal with international aspects?
I think it's always the moment that you put time zones. There's 2 aspects. There's the time zones, and then there are the cultural preferences of people. And as you were saying at the beginning, it's not just the technology doesn't tend to be the most complex part. It's like, how do you get people working together is normally the part that is kind of the more challenging. So when you add the friction of time zones, or you add people that have different, I don't know if you've all read the culture map, very different approaches to life and expectations, then you are adding a lot more complexity to the system. But that doesn't mean, you can use that to your favor as well. So it's all more about being intentional of, if you're doing it across the board, across multiple time zones, countries, and areas, you need to be intentional about setting that set up for success. You can't just expect that things will magically work and everything will work lovely. You really need to put the effort to make it work.
I wonder if there's been a light bulb moment for you, Maria, with organizational structures and creating blueprints that really helped you to understand why they're so important?
I think it's down to, as I said at the beginning, you can't leave things to chance. And I've worked, in many different places where the different struggles that you have as an organization ultimately come to bite you. And like maybe you've been focusing a lot on the execution or something, and then you've spent a year working on something, and then you realize that you didn't pay a lot of attention to the business side of things. So like actually my first role as a manager, and where I grew as a lead from first time manager all the way to senior director, was at Living Social. And that's kind of where I'm sure I've made many mistakes, and when I learned the big lessons in my career. And there was, to this point, like I used to be very, as an engineer, I was productive, I could get things done. And I think it's ultimately what, I was able to collaborate well with the people that I was working with. And I'm sure that was the reason that my manager decided, actually, you can take this management role and you can continue to grow. But I was very focused on like the success of my team. And I was it's like, okay, how can we do things the best way? Like our practices on how we do engineering. And at the time, we were one of the first teams, like the first team in our company that built CI/CD, or like a more of a DevOps approach to the work that we did. And I was very happy that, the things that I control were all running well. But then actually, when I zoom out, we had been working on a bunch of things, and the business kind of actually wasn't doing well. There was a little bit of a disconnect between what the business really would need versus what I had been working on. And I almost just like follow orders rather than question, wait, is that the best thing that my team can be doing to support the business? Or am I just following what somebody has decided, and I'm not really kind of questioning whether that is the best thing? So I think that was a big wake up moment for me to kind of actually, my role is not just to make a successful engineering team, is to make sure that my team is doing the best thing and adding the most value possible to the business. Because if the business fails, it doesn't matter if I have the best engineering organization in the world, it all goes. So that was definitely a big wake up moment. And as part of that, and we had a massive incident at the time at Living Social, that, I don't know if you're familiar with Living Social, is kind of Groupon, like they were our biggest competitors, or like a marketplace for daily deals. So we used to have massive traffic, and it was all very revenue based on those sales of the daily deals. And we had a massive incident that we lost our master database, and we had just very recently moved from a different data centers, and actually the backup was not actually properly working. So we were not able to recover that. So through magic and it took us 2 days to be able to rebuild that database. So we were out of business for 2 days. And that's one of those moments where you learn a lot of things about the job when you go through a crisis like that. And the big lesson was ultimately that as an engineering leadership team, we really weren't working all together and making sure that we had a safe setup and just assuming things are going well, but we're not questioning kind of all the practices and all the things that we're doing, whether we were setting us up for success. And then with the business as well, kind of, are we actually collaborating? So that was probably the second big lesson for me, is like the importance of the partnership peer group. And I don't know if you're familiar with Patrick Lencioni. I'm a big fan of his leadership books, but the sense, the idea of your first team as a leader being your peer group is something that from then on I've carried with me to every job that I've done. And I think it's one of the reasons that I've been able to be successful kind of in every other job that I've had.
I imagine in a crisis, it is critical, isn't it, that you have that peer group collaboration, communication, and that people are not working in silos and trying to protect their own territory. I mean, I know that happens in some businesses where I'm delivering leadership training, and they're trying to break that down by communication and by teamwork. What have you found that has been really effective, especially, I suppose, when you get hit with a crisis like that, which is urgent, right, and important?
Yeah.
What have
I
you
think
found that
yeah,
works?
so that's to start with is like with your engineering peer leaders. I think in that case, like when we came out of it, there was we were in really like what you said, it wasn't a blameless situation. There was a lot of finger pointing, which felt very awful. And then you learn actually, no, we all have a part to play here. And like it's not about one person, it's like there's a lot that we could all have done. And so if I move that to today, so I've got my peer VPs of engineering at Personio that we run, like one runs the platform teams around kind of global payroll. I've got another one that runs another set of products. We work very, very closely to make sure that we have an aligned strategy and that whatever we're pushing from a platform point of view, my teams in the product teams are actually adopting and really supporting and making sure that we are evolving kind of the systems together. Or I run kind of our operational excellence programs. So everybody, not just the teams that report to me, need to make sure that they are adhering to kind of how we approach availability, correctness, security, and performance of the system. So I think having, you can't let the teams battle it down on the ground because we're giving them conflicting priorities. So that's very clear, kind of as you're driving a technical direction. But it's not just with your peers in your technology roles. Actually, the person that I work the closest with day to day is my product partner, kind of the VP of product responsible for the same area as me, and kind of the leader for the design organization, and making sure that we have a very cohesive product and technical strategy, and that the way that we organize and support our teams is coherence is critical for us to be able to deliver. And then us together with our partners in sales or CX, etc. as well, because ultimately building product is just one part of the full picture. And you need to make sure that your go-to-market strategy is aligned with your product strategy, and your technical strategy is aligned as well with both of those things.
And I imagine those are incredibly stressful times, Maria, when you've got a crisis, when you're trying to get everybody to collaborate quickly with each other because there is a business critical deadline here. How do you support each other, or how have you learned to support each other to help to reduce the stress of those incredibly difficult times?
I think probably the thing that I value the most is in leaders, and that I think I try to live by every day. You don't want to be the chaos monkey in the room. You want to be the person that brings kind of calm in the situation, and kind of, get everybody, knowing that, look, we're here to support you. We're not going to get you in the way. You need to let the experts do what they need to do. And you need to bring, remove that sense of kind of threat or fear into there, so that everybody can do their best job. And there's nothing worse than actually leaders losing a little bit kind of their coolness, because it just add a different level of stress to the situation. So it's important that you're firm and that you are pushing for the right outcomes, but that you're also not making the situation worse when you approach those things. So it's how can you be available, how can you unblock any, when you see that people are hitting a wall, or they are not able to proceed, how do you help them get out of there? And sometimes you do that as a leader, or you go in that case, I like to make sure that we have very strong incident managers that know how to do those things. And you, in my case, like, you are a little bit more the buffer between what is happening on the ground with the leadership, especially with an event like that obviously will involve your CEO, and there's going to be a lot of people that is interested. I think you need to be the gap there to make sure that the right communication at the right time is going up and down, and that kind of customers are also taken care of, whilst the rest of the team can focus on actually get us out of the problem that we have.
I love that. I've got a new phrase now, chaos monkey. And I guess, we've covered this subject a lot in recent sessions, the possibility or the responsibility, I guess, for us to manage upwards, because sometimes the chaos monkey is actually further up the pay grade, right?
I think the way I see it is, when people interfere, is because they are missing something. there's something, they don't have trust that the right things are happening, and they need some information that maybe they're not getting, and that's what they're getting and trying to figure out what to do. So I think is, not taking that personally and try to identify, okay, what does this person need in this situation? How can I provide that so that we don't make the situation worse? So I think it's like having that situational awareness and know what the different people that you are dealing with. And that happens with everything that you do. Sometimes, how we collaborate with a sales partner, like it's all because I feel that when there's conflict, it's because people need different things. and it's just trying to figure out what it is, that thing that we all need, and how we can provide it so that we can find a way to all go towards ultimately the same successful outcome. Yeah.
How have you learned to develop that, Marie? Because, you seem to be incredibly well-rounded in that area. And I wonder whether you had a mentor in the past that helped you to sort of learn to navigate those journeys, or whether you're self-taught because you've read a lot and you've studied a lot. What's the journey been like for you?
I think there's a little bit of personality. Like my first degree before I got into engineering was journalism, and so I've always enjoyed kind of knowing people, understanding what people want and their thoughts, and listening to people. I think that probably the most important skill is listening and trying to understand what is happening, and then that emotional intelligence of like being able to put yourself on other people's seat, and not just take your point of view, I think is critical. And some people are more natural inclined to do those things. Other people need to learn it, and you need to invest on that. So I think that's been normally, when you do those personality assessments, and that's a trait that comes always high on my side, and I think it served me well. But sometimes, that can be also a basement of your strengths. It can be, you could be too empathetic so I think I've had to probably learn the other way, to be more authoritative and like not try to always get everybody happy. Sometimes you need to break some eggs, or you need to make some people unhappy to make sure that we're going on the other direction. So it's understanding your strength and see kind of what is needed in that situation. And we're all humans, like we are all flawed in many different ways. So I think it's worth for any of us to kind of get to understand people a little bit better. I think that book that I mentioned to you, The Advantage, is actually reinforces it talks about how to build leadership cohesion. And one of the first things that talks about is to do some exercises about personal histories with your peers, and really, or even do some of those kind of personality tests, not because they're going to be perfect, but because they give you the right framework to talk about things in a common way that doesn't feel so personal. It feels more, no, this is kind of what, and then you can start talking about your preferences and your preferred ways of working. And that goes a long way towards helping you understand people. And then from there, if you can align on your priorities and goals, and that everybody has the same goals, then you can figure out, okay, how are we going to work together, knowing our different preferences and styles and what we react to, knowing that these are my goals, these are your goals. How do we get now to a place that we can all achieve what we need in the best way possible?
And I think that's a lovely summary of exactly where the greatest teams that work very well together, they create that psychological safety, right? Because they do know each other intimately enough to be able to have those sometimes courageous conversations where you're not agreeing with someone and you are maybe setting a firm boundary. And that's, as you quite rightly said, that's the emotional intelligence part of, I guess, human intelligence, which is a lovely segue into what I'd like to ask you to share with us next, which is artificial intelligence. Now, we know it's everywhere at the moment. We see it everywhere in the news. We see it creeping into business. It's probably affecting nearly every aspect of our lives. And I'm curious how you might be looking at AI integration in the engineering and operations side of the business to drive those efficiencies. What have you found that is curious at the moment that's helping you guys develop that efficiency?
I think it's been a little bit of a journey. So we've been exploring what we can do with tools like Copilot or other agentic AI systems for quite a while, and like there was a lot of times you find, a lot of those things, they can come from your own curiosity. So as leaders, as engineering leaders, you see what's happening in the industry and you try those things. I think what has been a little bit different kind of this time around is because it's such a wide topic that is getting so much air across the world, the industry, on anything. Probably some of my peers here in the call, there is a lot more pressure or questions coming from your exec team or boards that are thinking, wait, other business are doing this, why are we not getting these efficiencies, or why are we not trying this, or what is our plan, what is our strategy? And at the same time, in this case, there is, going back to the people and emotional intelligence for a second, there is a lot that goes, it's not just a new technology, oh, let's move to the cloud or something like that. There is a lot of things are moving so quickly. So I find this a massive cognitive load and overwhelm in people that we can't catch up, keep up with everything that is going on. Or there's a lot of job anxiety, like in engineers, or like if you're in customer services or any other things that people are like, wait, are we going to bring these tools and now I'm going to be out of a job? What is going to happen? And it's because these tools are also blurring a little bit kind of the identity of the different functions. Like designers can now write code and potentially push code to production, or engineers can design things. It's creating a lot of very rapid change that probably we haven't been ready. You're not ready as an organization to really, what does that mean to us? So I think there's been a lot bubbling up, a little bit like the pressures coming in. It's like, hey, why are we not getting those things together with these kind of people being quite, what's the word? Skeptical about, no, actually, because we're trying them and we're not seeing those same benefits that we see in the headlines. I think the actual approach that we've taken at Personio is we're all in, because like there is no question that that's where the world is
It's not
going.
going away, right?
It is it now just, can you get the benefits that a lot of people talk out there? No, we're not getting kind of that level of efficiencies or whatnot. There are some really interesting use cases that we've explored that we're like, whoa, oh, that's actually really interesting. This is, we can do things that before, could take us a lot of time or we couldn't bring together very, very easily. So there are little things that we are like, actually, this is quite promising and interesting to explore. But it's definitely not letting me have a much smaller kind of engineering organization, or do kind of 2 times more work that I would do with the people that we have. So just now our approach has been, we've taken 3 phases. So the first one is like, okay, let's trial the tools and see what works for us, because not all tools, like depending your tech stack or your setup, some things are gonna work better than other ones. We've been doing some different trials. We have like a PHP monolith. We have a bunch of Kotlin microservices. We have like a front end kind of TypeScript service, and we're getting actually really nice results in the front end side, not so much in our Kotlin services or PHP. So we're trying different tools. We've landed with Copilot and Cursor for now, but there's a few other tools like Outman, Code, and other tools that we think actually might continue to improve. So that's the first thing we're going to continue to see, because everything is changing so quickly. So we're looking into what are principles to manage, what principles do we need to set with the organization on how they should utilize it in a safe way, and kind of budget considerations, because obviously you could burn through a million things. So I'm responsible for the budget for our R&D organization. So I'm very much conscious on how we approach that, working with procurement and security and legal to make sure that any of the tools that we're trialing and using kind of actually we're not going to get in trouble depending what we do with them. And then just getting information about those trial results from the teams to make sure that then we're ready to make a decision, okay, which tools do we want to support more and roll out to the rest of the organization. Then the second part is once we've chosen some of those things, we're putting quite a lot of effort on enablement and kind of helping the different teams, whether it's engineers, designers, product managers, program managers, etc., to master those tools. So we're doing a lot of learning sessions, peer learning, show and tells, showing the different use cases so that people can build on each other's work and hopefully ignite a little bit of kind of creativity and see how we can continue to learn. And we're starting to put more developer experience resources towards removing friction and standardizing some of the best practices, like in your cursor rules, etc. And then the last piece, and I think this is critical because you could stop there and then it's like, okay, we've rolled out the tools, people are using them, but what? I think you need to go a step further if you really want to make it part of how you work as an organization. So we are, to start with, because we don't know how efficient or not they're going to be, we're setting goals more around adoption and kind of engagement with those tools, just to make sure that everybody is experiencing them. So we haven't set goals of like, we need to be 20% more efficient or whatever. And then what we're going to do is continue to measure our developer efficiency metrics to see if there's anything that changes there or not, and what we learn depending on the use cases. But we are adapting our role expectations, so our career ladder, to set expectations on usage of those tools and adoption. And also the way we think about role expectations, we focus on 3 categories. It's like how people ship impact, how they have kind of engineering mastery or their functional mastery, and then how they help build capacity in the organization. So we've been adapting each of those things to set some expectations around the usage and the benefits of those tools. And then we're revising our hiring process, our onboarding process, and how we kind of track kind of the progress that we're making there as well. We don't know what we're going to learn. As I said, there's some really cool use cases that we are starting to see pop up. But it's going to be a little bit like, at least we're taking H2 to see what comes out of that, and how we can then really be more intentional on how we continue to get value from it. One thing that I, just to close a thought on this, a little bit my approach, personal approach, and what I say to all other engineering managers that are facing kind of a little bit this, going through navigating that people thing with what we are asking of teams to manage, is to focus on what we can control, which is kind of how we learn about those things, or kind of try, when we are going to do something, always think, hey, is there a way that we could use the technology to help or to improve? Sometimes it's going to be a waste of time and it's going to make you slower, and it's fine. Sometimes you actually are going to find something that is really good. They need to be open to learn. I think we are all now, like, it doesn't matter whether you're a principal engineer or a new graduate. Like, the bar has been set. We're all at the same level, and you might find that actually you have more junior people that are more excited about it, and they're kind of making more progress than maybe more senior people in the organization. So, like, I think we all have to embrace, kind of roll up our sleeves and learn. And the most important thing is like being very open to change. I think that's my role is VP of engineering, but I also run strategy and operations. And I don't think in my 25 years in the career, there's been anything that potentially threatens, if that's the word to use, or is an opportunity as well, to change as much as how it could be kind of the way that everything we do today gets done. And part of me kind of freaking out about it, because like, oh, I know those things, but I've never been as excited either of like, oh, bring it on, like burn it all down. Let's see what we can do again, and see if there are better ways and more enjoyable ways to deliver value to our customers and to do our day-to-day. So my approach is experimenting, trying those things for myself rather than just rely on people as well to tell me, and see kind of the value that they bring, and just continue to learn from other people and share what I learn as well, so that we can all get better and figure out how building software in the next 2 years is going to look like, because I think it's all up now for rewriting.
That's fascinating. I mean, respecting commercial confidentiality, I just wonder, from your perspective, what's the biggest light bulb moment, the wow factor that you've identified from AI in everything that you've done so far?
I think I've been more excited almost about what our designers are doing, because there's the team were able to super quickly, like, you know, they will work in Figma first, and they, you know, come up with these prototypes, and it will take quite a bit of time. We've been able to merge all the different type of information that we get from our customers, whether it is from NPS results or like feedback or bugs or like whatever, or from sales calls, etc., and get more insight from our customers. And then designers are building very quickly in Cursor prototypes that we can put within a day in front of customers for feedback. That loop before used to be so much longer, and now you can get that kind of immediacy of like, hey, we can put something actually pretty realistic already in front of our customers and get some insight. And that's been kind of really, really exciting. And then there's like, you know, obviously with the code, there's like testing and some of the front end is where we're getting a little bit more value. But even engineering managers, we're about to go through the our performance development cycle, and like we're like, hey, just get something, you know, we look at signals, not just to say, oh, you closed so many bugs, or you like, or you did so many MRs, but just as a signal of like, okay, what does that look, those contributions, like being able to pull all that information quickly and get a little bit summary so that you can just get started, and all the feedback from people and bring it all together. And it's not for them to, for the AI to do the review, but just having all that information quickly come together and you be able to accelerate that process and get the right insight more quickly is actually something that has been very useful for some of our managers. And it's not just for the managers themselves, for the individuals as well, that they're putting the self-reflections. They can use that to see, okay, what have I done over the last 6 months, and get like that quick summary, instead of like having to go kind of looking for everything, for all the evidence themselves.
Maria, thank you so much for sharing that insight with me. I can see in the chat that there's lots of questions coming up, particularly one about Cursor. So at this stage, I'm going to hand you over to Steve Maxwell, who is our resident tech leader. And Steve's going to take us through some of the questions that are showing up in the Q&A session. And I'm sure there'll be lots directed at you. So Steve, if you'd like to come on.